everyone. Good morning. I'm Stephanie Kaloje, and I'm here at the Itron Inspire event in beautiful San Antonio, Texas. And I'm joined here by Stefan Zschiegner, who is the VP of Product Management for Outcomes at Itron. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Really excited to talk to you today. So we're going to talk a little bit about the grid edge. And so before we start, how would you define the grid edge here for Itron? What is the grid edge to you?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good question, because the grid edge is actually the place where the most change is happening on these days on the grid, because all the electric vehicles, the solar, the changes on customer and consumer behavior is all happening at the grid edge. When we think about the grid edge technically, we think about everything below the substation, all the way down to past the transformer, past the meter, behind the meter, to what's happening at the customer location. But at the end, the real way to define it is really of everything that's happening at the edge of the distribution grid is super exciting, because that's where also the worries are from our customers, the utilities, and how to create visibility and control to that.
Yeah, how do you really understand what customers are adding if they're adding an electric vehicle and they're adding solar power to their homes? How does that utility really manage that? Right?
How to manage and how to actually know what's going on, so you can actually start to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of challenges do utilities face? I mean, I think there's so much of this prosumer kind of mindset happening where they're generating their own power or they're adding their electric vehicles. What kind of challenges are utilities faced with?
Yeah, so I think the utilities have a broad range of challenges with that, right? So it's clearly a whole new area of exploration, right? In the past, when the power goes from the power plant through the transmission line, through the distribution to the consumer, it was very straightforward. Now, all kinds of changes are happening. So from a utility perspective, as a grid engineer or a grid operations and grid planner, these are all new challenges to look at. What does it mean to my plants? What does it mean to my operation? How do I get visibility into that? Because my models from the 1960s don't work anymore. Sure. So now I'm like, then we have new departments in the utility that start to think about, okay, how do I achieve my sustainability goals in terms of using and engaging with the consumer? And then we are looking at like, I need to really think about how do I become the trusted partner of the consumer? So the challenges are very wide-ranging and affect every single department in the utility to engage with this grid edge in different ways. So, and that's exciting, because that's a completely different thinking than in the past, where it was really about how do I work and deliver a bill to the customer as I in return for sharing and delivering power.
Sure.
And that is a transformation that is just a huge challenge for the utility.
Well, and it's interesting, like you said, it's that collaboration and that partnership with the consumer, right? And I think even that came up in the keynote yesterday, that when, with the demonstration on when they start to plug in their new electric vehicles, it can really disrupt things. So if that utility and that consumer are not working together in concert, then it makes things very difficult.
It makes things very difficult. And now the industry has started to work on this over the last 5, 10, 15 years. It's not the first time we do flexible demand programs or demand response or consumer engagement programs with a green button. So that clearly over the last 5 to 10 years, a lot of things have already taken place. But this all takes it to a whole new level of dynamic and interaction, because also the consumer has become a lot smarter, a lot more educated, a lot more sensitive in the expectation of engagement with a smartphone. When you think about a smartphone app, it's very different today than it was 10, 15 years ago. So now we need to the speed of innovation. We need to become a lot more agile. We need to basically engage with a lot more stakeholders. So it's very exciting times this way.
Well, it's interesting you say that. So, I mean, how is Itron really helping utilities, address these challenges? What are you guys working on?
Yeah, so we work on a broad range of things, right? It's just, first of all, we acknowledged as a baseline, we cannot do it alone. So we need to figure out a way to approach this that is a systems approach, but it also is open and flexible and agile, so that basically allows a whole partner ecosystem, including the utilities, to participate in the innovation. And the innovation goes from innovating, creating more visibility into the low voltage grid with our new technology. We call it distributed intelligence. The idea is that you really move the intelligence or the compute to the edge. You enable more decision-making, action-taking right at the edge, at the customer premise. That will basically create the scale to millions of devices to operate autonomously in optimizing the grid. This and first with visibility, and then with control, and then with optimization. Super excited about this approach, and then engaging in all of that, all stakeholders, talking to the electric vehicle, charging station, to the solar inverter, talking to the thermostat, all of that in a coordinated fashion on behalf of the central control system. I think that's a major thrust of our activities.
You're right. It's like everything working together in concert is really pretty important.
Yep.
So can you provide any sort of specific customer examples where this is working really well?
Yeah, so we've actually worked very closely with our customers through the whole journey, right? From day one, we had our lead customers that really work with us. And we have published a lot of articles about this with our partners like TECO, Tampa Electric Utility, who has worked on this with us from day one on sharing and validating that the technology works, that it delivers the results and the value. And I think we've come a long way to now also show how it scales to multiple customers. So there's some very exciting use cases. They start with very fundamental things, such as, how do I make sure it's safe? How do I make sure I really protect the safety? Safety is still the number one concern of the utility in operating their grid. And we support this with new applications that can prevent any kind of high impedance situations at the customer premise that could potentially damage the wire, the meter, or create hazards in the house. We are providing the next is fundamental services to provide visibility in how the meter or the customer relates to the grid in terms of the topography of linking the location of the house to the infrastructure like transformers and substations. So these are providing insights that were previously not possible.
Yeah, they weren't even there. Those data points didn't exist, right?
Absolutely. So one of the customers is clearly TECO. We now look at other use cases that are super exciting, where we now start to monitor the transformers. And we monitor and we provide this real-time feedback into the operating room. We have other customers that are engaging with us. Now, in the first time, we are looking at control opportunities to really control autonomously the electric vehicle charging and make sure it doesn't overload the panel or it doesn't overload the transformer. And these are kind of the dialogues and innovations that are just ongoing right now.
Well, especially with more people starting to have electric vehicles, those conversations need to happen, right?
Yeah, so the worst case would be that all of a sudden the utility has to say like, oh, sorry, you cannot procure or buy this electric vehicle and charge it the way you want it. No, we are helping the utility avoiding these kind of conflicts and basically rather the opposite, help them to enroll, detect where they are, make the utility aware where the electric vehicles are in a way that allows them to have a much more positive dialogue and engagement with the consumer.
Like you said, it's really that collaboration, that partnership, right? And working together with them as opposed to just telling them what they can and cannot do. And that's not the right way of thinking anymore.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the prosumer, right? Clearly the prosumer is a very important segment. But when we engage with our customers, we realize that the next wave of engagement needs to be a lot more targeted. So there are consumers out there that depend on the in-wall AC unit, like here in San Antonio, Texas, every day. They don't have access to the internet. They rely on their mobile phone. So how do you help the utility to build a relationship with these customers is absolutely essential for us to build this partnership with all target audiences, not just the prosumer.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. So I know you had mentioned this is your second here at Itron Inspire. So what are you most looking forward to for the rest of the event?
Yeah, so I think this has been already a very exciting event. We have seen interest in our collaborations, and I'm really excited about the Knowledge Center. The Knowledge Center provides a great way to experience Itron. the way we set it up is we kind of follow the customer along their journey of decision making. We realize that all of our customers are in a different stage and in terms of their journey based on where their territory is or what their customers are or what their needs are. And the way we think about the journey of adopting this new innovations and partnering with us to really experience this is that we see that the first thing is really connecting. Connecting means how we connect with the devices or with the meters or other devices and help them to connect to these behind the meter devices, or to then network them or detect. So the next step is detect where the solar is, detect where the locations are, to detect where the electric vehicles come up. And then we move forward to really operate and work with the customers how to operate all of this in a consistent manner. And that next is for us to optimize and control so that they have more bandwidth and more capacity on the distribution grid and can defer expensive grid upgrades.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I had a chance to go through that, and it's pretty remarkable what you guys have built in there. So
analytics and AI will be a key component. So how do you bring the data to these new technologies to accelerate the learning? So the learning is not only being agile within our engagement with our customers, but also how do we bring in these new technologies to bear? So we're super excited about this ability that our analytics solutions that you can see in the Knowledge Center also engage directly with these new technologies.
No, it's incredible. Yeah, it's been a great event, and I appreciate you spending some time with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks.